what happens when you die. When you die, you have choices. You don't know this, but you have choices. When you leave your physical body, it is very typical for you to see yourself standing next to your body with either your loved ones or EMTs or whatever the circumstances are. And you see yourself, and then you'll hear a voice, you'll see the tunnel of light, and the voice will be calling you, or you will hear the voice telepathically telling you to come on, come. Now, as you stand there and you're looking at the tunnel of light, you have a choice. You can go up to this tunnel of light where you'll be with other loved ones that have crossed over, usually, all right? And you'll be put into a system where you are essentially caught in a reincarnational cycle, a loop. Or you can turn around, put the tunnel of light behind you, and what you will see is the entire universe. If you choose to go to the universe instead of the tunnel of light, whatever dimension you came from when you came down here to Earth, okay, we'll keep it all present time and place. Earth, whether it was 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th density, whatever it was, if you choose the universe and you say to yourself, I wish to go home, you will return to that dimension from which you came. So if it's 5, 6, 7, or 8, you will leave here and you will go back to that dimension, where I am told you'll be reunited with your soul. Because we're multidimensional, we're in many places at once. I've never shared this information.
Says, I heard that when we die, we should not go to the light, as it is a trick to recapture our soul to rebirth on earth. Is that true?
Yeah, that's what I was told. Visayas was very specific. He said, you, of course, can choose to do whatever you want, but none of you ever turn around and look what's behind you. And when I asked, well, what is behind me? He said, freedom. Freedom of Earth. Freedom of the reincarnational cycle.
When people die, clinically crossed into spirit, you always choose the moment of death. So let me tell you something. Before you're born, this is important. It relates to ascension. You're on the soul plane, but now you got a karmic cycle. So now you're going to choose your next life. And you got your masters and guides there, and your higher self is with you. Now you're going to select a body to come to. Let's say you're going to go on the earth plane. Mm-hmm. You choose the framework of your life. It's not predestination. You choose an incident. How you respond to it is always free will. You get? So what you do choose, though, is the moment of death. So when people die, they say, oh, a person died in a plane crash or a car crash or a drug overdose, whatever. They chose that. It's their free will. Now, you can prevent it if you really want to do that, or you do techniques like age progression. Sure. But when people say, oh, the world hates me, and they start whining and complaining, no, you earn that. That's part of your karmic debts. And that's why you're not giving to the answer to the test, because you have to learn to grow with it, to avoid the problems in the future, and to wipe out that debt from the karmic cycle.
Bruce, when I was 11 years old, I had an out-of-body experience. I woke up, was bouncing on the ceiling, looking down at my 11-year-old body in bed. I thought it was a dream initially, and then all of a sudden, wham, I was brought right back into my body, and I jolted, and I went, that wasn't a dream, what was it? And I went to the library, and I started looking for books, and I stumbled across books on astral projection by Sylvan Muldoon, Hayward Carrington, and people like that. Right. And I got obsessed with this. I've never been able to duplicate an OBE again, but what happened to me?
Well, this was a karmic benefit to you. This got you into the field.
It did.
Now, if you've had difficulties in doing out-of-the-body experience, it can be complicated. I mean, I'd be happy to send you some of my material to help you with it, because I'd like you to see you do that. But the key issue here is that in your life, maybe you would have gone to dental school and become a dentist if it wasn't for that.
Maybe.
That got you into the paranormal, the metaphysical
Yeah.
mentality. That was the key issue here of that. Most importantly, their literature research that you read about, that was back in the 1920s and 30s, the old days of, they used to call them, astral projection, then OOBE and then OBE, all the changes, okay? But that was the key issue to get you into the field, which would lead to you doing what you do now. What happens is that you go through the different dimensions. So right now we're on the physical plane. This is characterized, each plane or dimension has a sound characteristic of it. So thunder is the sound of the earth plane. So if you want to practice out-of-body experiences, and I train many of my people to do that, you don't want to do it during a thunderstorm.
Why not?
Because it's like a salmon swimming upstream. The sound will keep you on the earth plane.
Really?
It's very difficult.
Sound
Extremely
has a
difficult.
lot to do with it.
Yes, a lot to do with it. Now, beyond the physical plane is the astral plane, which people have heard of. That's the most common dimension that they've heard of. The roar of the sea, just like putting a seashell next to your ear.
Okay.
That's kind of sound. It has the lower astral plane, which is the source of psychic attack, and then there's the upper astral plane, where you can work with your higher self. So that's the astral plane. Beyond that is the causal plane, which is the tiniest of the dimensions, characterized by the tinkling of bells as the sound, and that's where the Akashic records are stored. That's like a fifth dimensional computer chip, which stores your past, present, future, and parallel life information. Beyond that is the mental plane, characterized by sound of running water, which is characterized by where the masters would hang out, Moses, Buddha, Jesus, etc.
All right.
There's like abstract
Higher
buildings. It's still a part of the karmic cycle, but you have these like angelic entities wearing these white smocks. The roads are actually dark blue in color, so you know how you're on that dimension. Beyond the mental plane is the etheric plane. Now, this is a very important one. It's the largest of all the dimensions. It's characterized by the sound of buzzing bees, and there are these weird entities known as the etheric plane surgeons. They look like giant tadpoles, and what they do is if you have an incurable disease or any major disease, they can operate on your etheric body. Remember, every dimension you go into a spiritual body.
Right.
So if you go to the astral plane, you're in your astral body. If you go to the etheric plane, you travel in your etheric body. The etheric body is the only spiritual body that's absolutely identical to the physical body. And it's necessary for life, by the way.
Okay.
So let's say the etheric plane surgeons operate on somebody who has cancer, AIDS, or lupus, or some disease. They cure the etheric body. Then, with techniques I call this etheric plane surgery, I can transfer the techniques, the healing from the etheric body when they return to the physical body. In certain cases, very difficult to do, and then they can cure the physical body because the etheric body was cured on the etheric plane. Now, the etheric plane, the mental, the causal, the astral, and the physical represent those 5 dimensions are the karmic cycle. Okay, that's where you have to reincarnate over and over again. Beyond that, your higher self will accompany with you as when you cross into spirit or clinically die, takes you through the different dimensions, and then you go to the soul plane, the 6th dimension. And the soul plane is like a DMZ. It's neither the higher planes nor the lower plane.
Do we automatically get through that level?
Yes, well, that's where you choose your next life. So everybody goes to the soul plane.
Okay.
Now, on the soul plane, there are these floating heads. It's unusual. And your master's guides are there, your spirit guides, an angelic entity can
I
be
bet
there
you're
with you.
wild at parties, Bruce.
And they help you choose your next life. Or if you're ready to ascend, they do a form of energy cleansing to actually finally perfect the soul's energy. Now you shed, remember, you're in the soul plane, you're in your soul plane body,
Right.
okay? Spiritual body.
Right.
Now, when you're ready to ascend, you shed that body. So now you're pure energy, no more body of any kind, and you go into the higher planes, and then eventually you wind up with what we call the God energy complex. Some people call it all that is. They call it God. They call it whatever. Heaven or nirvana, where there's no perpetrators, no victim. It's the eternal now. That's the ultimate goal, is to ascend. Once you enter the higher planes, you'll never come back.
There are many planes of existence between humans' existence and ascension. A plane is conceived as a subtle state, level, or region of reality. Each plane corresponding to some type, kind, or category of being. As you pass through the planes on the circle, which is spiraling, you recombine with the rest of your entity. Then with other entities, becoming more and more merged with the total consciousness of the universe. The material or physical plane, the plane of force, the spiritual plane, the mental plane, the divine plane of truth, the plane of divine reality, and the union with the all. These 7 planes also have subplanes or counterparts. The common mistake is looking at the planes as layers of fine matter lying one above the other in space. Keep in mind there is no such thing as space, because space is always fill. Planes are distinct and intricate moods of vibration, woven into one another so uniquely that one cannot determine where one plane begins and the other ends. Everything you see, taste, smell or feel is a vibration frequency, sound, color, light, number and letter. The natural mood of vibration ranges from very high and fast, to very low and slow. Keep in mind everything in the universe is in constant motion, nothing in creation rests. Although there is a rest point, there are 7 heavens as well. The lowest and the slowest vibrating one is the material or physical plane, while the fastest and highest is the plane where one is in total union with the all. These planes are divided up into 3 worlds or realms. What is a realm? A royal domain, kingdom. The region, sphere, or domain within which anything occurs, prevails, or dominates. The highest or first is called Lahut, the realm of God or the Most High. The second is called Malakut, the realm of the angelic beings. The third is called Nazut, the realm of the mortals. These 3 are one called Hayulai. Plane ships and gates can transport adventurers directly to any other plane of existence, with different degrees of precision. The physical or material plane is the governor of carnal desire. The human beings dwell on the physical plane. It is governed by the number 3. Person, place, and thing, which are nouns. It is made up of solids, liquids, and gases. The physical plane, the second of the planes, is where you experience solidity, separateness, and forgetfulness. The higher forces can also be held accountable for the many so-called wonders and supernatural phenomenon of the material plane. You agree to forget your past experiences here in order to experience something new. Most of our discussion deals with the phenomenon of the physical plane. If you feel that everything that exists outside of this plane, you are wrong. There is still a lot to be uncovered on this plane. There are many more forms or states of being within the physical plane. This largely composed of etheric duplicates of objects on the physical plane, or counterparts. Etheric refers to the spiritual part of you. As above so below. You are connected to the spirit world through your etheric cord. Etheric cords or cords of attachment are a common term used in energy healing and spiritual circles. We all have etheric cords. You are born with them. Etheric cords are energy structures, cords that connect from within your energy bodies, aura, chakras, etc., and extend out of you. It can connect with other people, places, animals, objects, situations, and past events. When you connect with someone by interacting with them or even by thinking or talking about someone, you will create an etheric cord with them. An energetic cord will extend out of you and connect with that person. It can be as simple as wherever you place your focus you will cord it, as in record. Which mean to cord again and again. You create etheric cords as ways to connect with things that are around you. Etheric cords can attach anywhere on your body, although there are certain areas of the body which are more common. As an example, etheric cords that connect at and around the solar plexus chakra, personal power, tend to be from cords that attach due to normal daily activities. Etheric cords that attached at and around the sacral chakra, emotion/sex, tend to be associated more with romantic partners. Once connected, you will then start to receive energetic information from this person. This information is carried back to you via the cord. The etheric cord is very much like a probe that transports energetic information back to you. This information is then processed and decoded. This is how you sometimes know if you like or dislike someone even before you interact. The Akashic Records, also called the Book of Life, which is kept in Malakut / the Divine Truth Plane 5th dimension, in a star system called Lyra. The Akashic records exist solely for the purpose of record keeping. It is an energetic computer which stores all experiences in the universe. It provides a place where the memories of everything that happens, all thoughts, emotions, and physical experiences are stored on crystals and can be looked up later for reference. The Akashic record is that neutral place that observes the games that take place on the other planes and provides a reference source which entities on the other planes can tap into. In a sense, it is the instinctive center for the universe as a whole. The instinctive center in the human body remembers and records all experiences from life to life. The Akashic record remembers all experiences in the universe from its conception to its use. When the universe completes its cycle and is ready to spin off a new baby universe, it is given a copy of the Akashic record as its parent's seed. Thus, one of the purposes of the Akashic record is to provide for the procreation of the universe as a whole. The plane of force is the force between voluntary and involuntary actions. The plane of force and the physical plane work together in perfect harmony. The plane of force is governed by a force called attraction and is all around us, and it's as much a part of our makeup as the material plane. Forces act in all planes. The plane of force, also called the vertical plane, is the plane that is perpendicular to the ground. If an object is not accelerating downward, there must be a force acting opposite of the gravitational force, but in the same plane. These forces can be normal forces or tension or magnetic forces. The gravity is the plane of force. Gravity is the force that attracts a body toward the center of the earth, or toward any other physical body having mass. The gravitational force is a force that attracts any two objects with mass. We call the gravitational force attractive because it always tries to pull masses together, it never pushes them apart. In fact, every object, including you, is pulling on every other object in the entire universe. Magnetic force is also gravitational force. Frictional force refers to the force generated by two surfaces that contacts and slide against each other. A few factors affecting the frictional force. These forces are mainly affected by the surface texture and amount of force impelling them together. The tension force is defined as the force that is transmitted through a rope, string, or wire when pulled by forces acting from opposite sides. The tension force is directed over the length of the wire and pulls energy equally on the bodies at the ends. The repulsive or attractive interaction between any two charged bodies is called as an electric force. Similar to any force, its impact and effects on the given body are described by Newton's laws of motion. The electric force is among the list of other forces that exert over objects. The normal force is the force that surfaces exert to prevent solid objects from passing through each other. Normal force is a contact force. If two surfaces are not in contact, they can't exert a normal force on each other. Air resistance force describes the forces that are in opposition to the relative motion of an object as it passes through the air. These drag forces act opposite to the oncoming flow velocity, thus slowing the object down. An applied force is a force that is applied to an object by a person or another object. If a person is pushing a desk across the room, then there is an applied force acting upon the object. The applied force is the force exerted on the desk by the person. Spring force, the force needed to extend or compress a spring by some distance, x, scales linearly with respect to that distance, that is, F equals kx, where k is a constant factor characteristic of the spring, and x is small compared to the total possible deformation of the spring. You are not able to detect it because your senses are not conditioned. However, beyond the subplanes of etheric duplicates of the plane of force is a waste reservoir of forces which very few have knowledge of, these forces which control the forces that result in what we know to be nature. The spiritual plane is where the emotions are